Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting for December 18th, 2024. And we will start with public comment. What is this?
Grace Mullen.
Okay, Grace.
I knew it had to be mine.
Well, I'm like, I didn't want to butcher the last name. If you come up here, please. Yes, ma'am, thank you.
I'm Grace Mullen, 357 Centennial Avenue. Is that all you need? I forget.
That's fine.
Okay. I just had to tell you that an adage that just to start, you can get more flies with sugar than with vinegar. And to just in point of that, after the last meeting, I just wanted to say 3 big thank yous. For one thing, whoever did this, it's phenomenal. I wish I'd had that a year ago so I knew what was going on. Gold stars on your Mother Goose chart. And thank you for, oh my gosh, we had so much fun at caroling at the marketplace because we had the help of, the mayor helped set that up. Margie helped set up. Chad, Matt, Valerie. And we got people from vendors come and sing with us. And it was just such an example of what positive things we could do in Hanover with a little cooperation. Barbara, I want to thank you for bringing Noah and Alexis aboard. Just so you know, they're contributing already with the teen center that we're setting up. I mean, I got responses. You never get responses when you call people. It's just a joke. But, oh yeah, they had this idea. So we are going to have a teen center. Probably it's going to have to move into the borough at some point. But right now, we're doing it at First Church. We're having a blizzard blast in January, and it's going to be phenomenal. Okay, one more suggestion, though, and that Margie pointed out this. We sort of have to pour some cold water over my head. I didn't understand that this is not a question and answer set. Nobody else does either. After the last meeting, the people that I brought said, oh, but there wasn't time for question and answers. I said, no, that's not what it is. But that's what so many people are looking for. And as Margie pointed out to me, that most of the questions really should go to her and she could refer them to the right person in the borough. And I understand why that didn't work 3 years ago. It's working now. You can go into the borough. I go in all the time and wander around and bother people and talk to them and ask. I do bother them, but whatever. And ask, it is run. I mean, somebody, I don't know if we congratulate the mayor or congratulate Margie or what the difference is, but it is different. It's more efficient. She's running a tight ship. And we've got to, somebody needs to support those people and talk to them about problems instead of just loud-mouthing to the world about how terrible things are. Just one last thing is I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that's a very conservative church, one Christian church. One thing that we are taught, and I think would have been applicable at the last meeting, is that we try to teach people, and the kids right from the time they're young, that they need to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think that's really important in this organization, in every organization, that, come on, guys, we're adults. It's one thing when little kids are throwing spitballs at each other, but we need to learn, maybe as a whole town government, to disagree without being. And thank you for your time, and I think you guys are great.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, Mr. Holt?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. And
Yes.
I think you're great, too. My name is Robert Holt, and for the record, my address is P.O. Box 1131, Hanover, Pennsylvania, 17331. That is my address for the purposes of the United States government, the state of Pennsylvania, and other jurisdictions. That is my address. That is the address that I will give in public at any time today, tomorrow, next year. I want to speak about accountability. Last month it was said at the council meeting that there was going to be discussion at the council this month on an open container law, but it's not on the agenda, and I don't expect it to be on the agenda next month. So here we go again. Things are said, but there's no accountability. Second, I want to go right to the heart of the governance resolution that you have on the table tonight. That resolution is significantly different from the one that was discussed last month, and that it no longer has the provisions pertaining to the conduct of council members in executive session. And I just think that's convenient, that we're going to impose restrictions on the public, but not the public servants. And I have a question about a stipulation in that resolution that says the public will be able to comment in the first comment period or the second comment period, inferring that the public will not be able to, a person will not have the opportunity to speak at both. And that's wrong. So I don't know what governance is, but the way I see it, you're on the wrong track. Because this isn't governance. And as we're talking about governance, I'm talking about your duty to ensure this budget that was published and has not been corrected as of last night or tonight before I came to check. It is full of wrong numbers, inflated numbers. There are errors. There are projections that are inflated. There's just a lot of errors, and it's your job to make sure that these numbers are right. It is your job to make sure that what is being given to you by the staff, all these numbers are accurate, and they're not. And so I think you need to suspend this budget, even though it's going to hurt a little bit, and take a little bit more time with it. And you may be after December 30th, 31st, or whatever it is that you pass it, but I think you would do the citizens of this community a service to take care of that. And finally, I read this stuff, and I'm amazed that we have a $15,888 cost overrun on the 33 Frederick Street building because there's some issue with the floor that wasn't discovered in the inspection of the building or the bidding process in developing the bid specs. And now taxpayers are being asked to pay $15,888 to fix an error that was an oversight. And I think it should come out of some people's paychecks and not out of the taxpayers' dollars. And I just feel, I don't know. But it's a done deal because under the agreement you had, basically all you're going to do is ratify it. It's already done. The contract is already signed according to the paperwork that I saw. And so I want to know the accountability. Where is the accountability? Where is the governance? Where are the council members doing their job to protect the public? And that's your job, to protect the public. And I'm asking you to do that. We've got a long way to go, folks. For some of you, we got 4 more years. Some of you won't want to do 4 more years. And I understand that. This is a tough job, but I'm expecting some accountability. I want accountability for myself, and I just thank you. Last thing, I keep getting, and now my other family members are getting delinquent notices for a garbage bill that was paid at the beginning of the year. And this, and it's been corrected. We've been down here, folks have been down here twice to get it corrected. Now, if you want to pick on me, if you want to single me out, that's fine. That's fine. I can live with that. Don't pick on my family. Don't pick on the family members. We're law-abiding, peaceful people, and this is wrong. I don't know who foisted this computer system on us, but you're causing our families some angst. And there's other situations where the wrong correspondence is going to the wrong houses and things like that. So, sir, fix this, please.
Thank you, Mr. Holt.
Can we address then, Tim, some of these? I did request for this agenda to have the open container and
Okay,
Bill
open
Ricard-
container, we're still in public comment. We're not at that point yet. but open container, I believe, was going back to governance in January. Maybe it was misinterpreted, but that is going back to governance to work out the low-hanging fruit
In January.
and bringing it back to us.
This
the
is
end of
going in
It
January?
needs to go through committee.
Yep.
Okay, all right, and,
We're still in public comment, though. Let me get Sandy Mao out of the way here, okay? We're in public comment. Let me do that first.
yeah, are we going to address all of this at some time or another within the next
Within the
coming
committee
month?
meetings, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we will.
Because I am concerned, because, you
Oh, I
know, we were-
agree.
I was promised, and it didn't show up for this month.
Yep.
So that concerned me. Mr. Holt, you know, is bringing things to our attention. I think he wants to.
we appreciate that.
I think he wants to make it better for us and not worse.
I agree.
But we have to begin to address these issues, okay? Thank
Okay,
you.
Mrs. Mao?
Okay, I just have 2 points here right now. My name is Sandy Mao, General Delivery. For the record, the Guthrie Memorial Library Board of Governors meeting scheduled for December the 12th, 2024 was canceled due to the lack of business to come before the board. And yet tonight, we have a major presentation. Again, we had no input, no questions answered. Nothing, we knew nothing until I got the agenda tonight. Secondly, when I come before this body, I do so with facts. I do not embellish them, and I don't blow them out of proportion. I do a considerable amount of research with my hands tied behind my back because I can't get information via the right to know, and I can't get information from any of the committees. So I would appreciate in the future, anyone who after a meeting accuses me of that activity, not to do so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online?
One person, but we're having some trouble connecting to the in-room monitors here.
Okay, do you want to check if anybody has public comment online?
Yeah, we can text to see if they, if you're joining us online via Zoom, you can text us if you have any questions or comments for the council.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 2.
Council had an executive session this evening from 6:30 to approximately 7 o'clock involving personnel matters and other privileged matters under Section 708A, 1 and 5 of the Sunshine Act.
Okay, thank you. Number 3, presentations, library. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Nat Fissel, Vice President of the Board of Governors of the Library, joined here with Chrissy Rosensteel, our President. And on behalf of the Board of Governors Subcommittee, we'd like to provide you with an update on the library's transition plan. And also, going forward, we think this would be something good for us to do, every 3 months or so, at least quarterly, so that council's fully aware of what is happening. So a few short months ago, on June 19th, 2024, President Rosensteel provided council with a statement that the Board of Governors Subcommittee had been diligently working through a transition plan, and at that time, stated that the Board of Governors was committed to the motion of divesting library operations from the borough and become a branch library of York County Libraries, or YCL. Since that time, the Board of Governors Subcommittee has continued to have discussions with YCL, and President Rosensteel has, continued to meet with Manager Lewis on a regular basis. However, at this time, there is a complexity that is impeding progress on the transition of Guthrie to a YCL branch library. Currently, the Guthrie Library staff are members of a labor union. YCL does not have any employees represented by a labor union. This situation is beyond the control of the Board of Governors, and we cannot move forward with YCL until there's some resolution to this rather complex issue. The subcommittee's preferred option for transition continues to be the path to become a YCL branch library. However, the Board of Governors subcommittee would like to continue exploring other options concurrently to keep progress moving forward and also to have an alternative plan in place in the event that discussions with YCL come to an impasse. The subcommittee asks Council to consider the possibility of the library remaining a department of the borough, but in a more financially sustainable position for the borough. While there would be many details to work out, the basic principles of this option, as we see it, would be that the library remains a department of the borough as it is today. The Board of Governors and the borough would work together to develop a mutually agreed upon funding formula where the borough's financial commitment to the library would be limited to the building occupancy and capital expenditures and funding operations only to the extent of a fair share contribution. The Board of Governors will work proactively with the Library Development Director to fundraise and increase charitable giving towards funding library operations. In other words, the Board of Governors would work towards funding the operating deficit that would put the library on a more financially sustainable path. Obviously, this is a very short summary and is intended to be a concept to consider with additional details and a formal plan to be worked out later. We believe that the best way forward to explore this option would be to resurrect the library working group with some new representation, but would include a small complement of the library's Board of Governors, the Hanover Public Library Association, and Borough Council members. The directive of this working group would have the narrow focus of developing the funding plan and related formulas, so I would not anticipate this to be a long and arduous process for the working group. The Board of Governors Subcommittee respectfully asks you to consider this alternative path, and if Council would like to move forward with this in some capacity, to please reach out to us and we can continue to move forward together. Thank you for your time and consideration. If Council has any questions for us at this time, we'd be glad to entertain those best we can.
No, pretty cut and dry. If we do, we will email you guys or get back to you guys.
Well, we appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 4, which is the consent agenda. I would be looking for a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a question. I just wondering why Daw Sally is going to be till June. What's the holdup on?
Hold on one second.
So the simple answer is paperwork. These projects, because they're federal, they carry a lot of paperwork that we have to clean up with the county. So we met, was it this week or last week, Margie? We met with last week with the CDBG folks. They came down, they looked at it, they were pleased with it. But now to close it out, we have all kinds of closeout reports we have to do. We have all of the applications for payment from the contractor. Those have to be worked back through the county for reimbursement. So while we could have rushed to try and get everything done by the 31st, the decision was made, why don't we just get a 6-month, because you don't get them by like the week, you have to get a 6-month extension. Let's get a 6-month, let's get this stuff. I suspect by the end of January, we'll be cleaned up with everything anyway, but that's the reason.
Okay.
Any other discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Number 5 is expiring terms and recommendations to appoint. Pretty cut and dry. Our stuff was in our packet. I would be looking for a motion for that.
So moved.
One will be a second. There you go. Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 6 is governance. Was in our packet, but do you want to talk to any of this, or are you good?
Just make a comment. Mr. Holt was right in his assessment. He said the executive, information about the executive sessions is not in this resolution. It is not. Our committee agreed to this without the executive session part in the resolution, so that is not in here. Basically, this is just how we run the meeting, and it talks about how we make motions and we follow Robert's rules. And the purpose is really to have rules of decorum so we run the meeting. And the only, there is a section about public comment, but you can make public comment at the beginning and you can make it either time. There's nothing in there that says that you can only make it once. So there's 2 brief sessions, comments there under public participation about the public comment. The rest really refers to how we run our meeting. So with the information on the executive session guidelines out, I'm make a motion to approve this resolution.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is get consistency, so the way Bill and I run our meetings, and then all the committee meetings kind of run the
Right.
same, so we have the same way, so everybody understands how it works.
May I ask,
I'd add to that to compliment, because I work or sit on that committee with Dr. Rupp, and I'd like to compliment her for doing a really good job in summarizing all of that stuff, because there was a lot of it, and putting it together in a clear and concise format. And we chose specifically to separate the executive session
Yeah, I know.
discussion because
So-
it's a separate thing. This is a public meeting discussion, so there's nothing being hidden or anything, but it's
No.
a separate,
So I'm
it's a
assuming
separate
you're
discussion.
seconding this then?
Without a doubt.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a
I
second?
do have just one quick question.
We're getting to discussion.
I'm hoping that we do these workshops at some point, starting in the year 2025, where the public, and we can go back and forth. My question is, would these rules would not apply to those workshops? Would I be correct? Is that
You're
something
talking
you're-
like a public forum? No, they would not.
That would be something
Okay.
totally
People just come
different.
up to
Because we
microphone and
need,
speak. if
all
they
right,
had
I just
those.
want to make sure that
You're right.
on the record that
You're right.
the public understands that as well.
You're right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like the opportunity to table this one more time. I had a death in the family, so we were not able, my hands were tied this past month, but I would like the opportunity to go out to West Manheim and to attend their meeting, and I would recommend it for any of our council members. Apparently, I am getting so many positive comments about the way they are holding their meetings and what they are doing for their people. And I just think that it isn't a matter of life and death that we pass this tonight. And
So
that
you're
you
making a
do.
motion then
I am
to
making
table
a
this?
motion to allow me to to ask to table it
Okay.
so that I can go to a West Manheim meeting and see how they are conducting their meetings.
Okay. So we have a motion to table this. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a second. Any other discussion on it? Okay. Okay, let me get my pencil ready. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Of which
The
motion?
table?
This is the.
This is the motion to table.
Okay.
Okay.
The motion to table. So if you're in favor of the motion to
One.
table, I'm going to ask you to please put your hand in the air. If you are in favor of
No, what am I in favor
to
of?
table, to table.
To table, yeah,
Yep.
just for a month.
Okay.
Yeah, just for 1 month. Yeah,
So we have 4.
is that it?
Okay, against?
What am I putting your hand up for now? What?
Against.
Against. Are you,
Against. Oh, I
are
thought
you
you
against
said yes,
tabling?
Against, okay, right.
How many we
Sorry.
got? 5. Motion fails. Now we have another motion on the table to approve this,
Unbelievable.
and we have a motion and a second. So we already did the discussion on it, so I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hands?
Yes, opposed.
1, 2, 3,
Opposed.
4. Same. Motion carries. Okay, Department of Water Resources, number 7. Is there anything you want to talk about here, or are we good? It was in our packet.
Yeah, just real briefly, I did come before you last month to prep you a little bit on this. This is a requirement of the Pennsylvania Utilities Commission that we actually add a section that deals with lead services. As you know, we certainly put mailings and things out trying to get people engaged to help us understand where those lead services are. As one of the legal requirements, now we need to modify what's known as our tariff. And our tariff is kind of the rule book that we have to play by with the Pennsylvania Utility Commission. So this is something that is actually due on the 19th, so your action on this tonight is final. This is not something that's going to carry to next week.
Okay, so we are looking for a motion on this,
Make a motion.
and a second?
Seconded.
Second, and I have a question.
Okay, discussion, go ahead, Mr. Rowland.
I understand the lead, but I don't understand the galvanized.
The galvanized has components of lead in it, so by the state and by PUC, it's considered galvanized needing to be replaced.
Okay, so there's lead in the zinc
Correct.
alloy.
Correct.
And
Thank you.
if a home is found to have these lead pipes, what happens from there?
So what will happen is the borough identifies them, and then the borough begins to get the group of all of those lead services together, and then we build a strategy to get them replaced. So the tariff will give us rules that we can engage with the customer on, because we don't have those right now. The borough will have to replace the lead from the corporation stop to the backside of the meter. If there's lead inside the house in the plumbing, that will be incumbent on the owner then. We're not going to go into their house and redo their plumbing.
So we go to the meter,
Right.
not to the curb
Correct.
for lead.
Which is contrary to the way we do it as far as ownership and maintenance right now. We stop at the corporation stop. The way this works and the way this is being mandated from EPA down to the PUC, down to us, is that we have to take responsibility to replace that lead.
But if they have them in their house, is that something they'll be forced to replace them, or would it be by their choice?
Plumbing, you mean like plumbing in the walls and things?
Pass the meter.
That would be up to them to
Up to
decide,
them.
yes.
Okay. Just because I have a
And
couple people.
let me be
who are-
clear too, as we would identify that lead and we would say, hey, we're gonna work with you, we'll put you on the list to replace it. If a homeowner says, no, I don't want you to do that for whatever reason, we will have to respect that. So we're not gonna go kicking doors down to replace lead. I mean, we certainly would try to preach what the value of replacing that lead and make them understand the health risks and things, but we're not going to, again, kick down
Just
a door.
because I had a couple people be concerned that if lead is found in their pipes, they're worried that they're gonna be forced to replace all the piping in their own home, and they
no.
can't afford it.
No,
No,
Okay.
that's not true.
not accurate.
What was your percentage of response when they tested for lead when we called in? I know I personally called in our buildings.
I mean,
okay?
how many lead have we found so
No,
far?
no. What response, what return
Oh.
did you get back from the people on
We
testing?
were a little bit over 500 responses out of 18,000.
Whoa.
Hence why I had to send out letters to everybody.
Yeah,
because
you said, okay, that's what I was
we were now,
questioning.
let me be clear about that. We were mandated by DEP to send those letters out. So,
Yeah, well, I got a set, we called in.
Right.
And I returned it over to the waterworks or whatever, and told them exactly what we had. And then I got this other letter saying,
Yes.
and I thought, didn't they put me, didn't they take my response?
it's possible your response was being processed as the letter was being prepared to go out. It's
And when
possible
did the letter go out, do you know?
the letter went out 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Oh, no, the response was back at the
Okay. Well,
beginning
I can
when you
look
handed
into it.
those cards out.
And it
yeah.
could have crossed, Darlene, you have more than one property, correct?
Yeah,
It could have crossed and maybe one property wasn't caught and we have your name on that, so you would have gotten a letter for that.
So one of, just,
no.
and not to go too far down rabbit holes, but one of the things we are going to be doing is we are going to actually put out a public-facing GIS map that you will be able to go onto a computer and see your property. You'll be able to see whether or not what we are currently saying that water service is. If we know it to be non-lead, you'll see that. If we don't know, you'll see that as well, and that will be a way for you to engage with us to help switch that to knowing what it is.
but those of us who responded to it, okay, you have
The map
that
will show that then.
information.
The map will show that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just double check to make sure, because I kept looking and I kept thinking, Why am I getting these letters? You know, I already gave you the info.
It is a massive data organization effort with 18,000, so just bear with us. We
Okay.
will get it.
Okay,
So we have a motion on the floor and a second.
so motion.
Well, it's already done. That part's done.
You want second?
Nope, we're good.
You sure?
Yep, we're ready to go to the vote.
Okay.
Any other discussion before we go to the vote? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the roll. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Don't do it.
Pass. Okay, moving on to number 8, Finance, Personnel, and
Oh,
Administration.
it shows I was 3 sheets.
A is the 2025 Compensation and Health Insurance and Organization Chart for Non-Union Employees Resolution. Everybody saw that in their packet. We'd be looking for a motion on that,
So motion.
and thank you. Any discussion? Pretty cut and dry. Not a whole lot to it. Okay.
Second?
Nope, we're good.
All right.
Can you not hear down that side of the table?
Huh?
Huh? Right, exactly.
There you go.
Okay.
All those in favor?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2025 General Liability and Workers' Comp Insurance. This is kind of along the same thing. It was in our packet. We'd be looking for a motion on that, please.
So motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ratify the building construction change order updates.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second. Sure.
Okay. Discussion.
I think it might be good for public information.
I was just getting
Yeah.
ready to do
I
that.
agree.
Kind of explain
I agree.
the situation.
Give us the hit parade, please.
It should
Do you want me to go through them individually, or
No, just,
just,
one would be to address Mr. Holt's
How the
comment.
budget worked,
How the budget.
that we had that in there as a contingency.
correct?
How much overrun, versus budget, that kind of thing.
Yes. So, as you will recall, this project is an $11 million project being funded out of what was your COVID money, we called it ARPA money, which was then used as a match for a state grant. So your combined $11 million is not coming out of your general fund. That is money that was given to us through the federal government and through the state government in those programs. So what we are doing is staying inside of that $11 million that we were allocated for the project. That's broken across both of them, though. So when you see these change orders, staff tracks those. We look at those cumulatively to make sure that, number one, we're staying inside of where we're supposed to be on the project. One of the things that's happening with 33 is that we received and opened bids that were less than what the estimate was. That's a unique position for a municipality to be in. Typically, you're at the line or you're on the other side of it. So for us to be sort of in a negative position, that's good, because as these change orders come in, what it's doing is just moving us up to where the actual estimate was for the job. So I know there's a lot of concern about it, and I would tell you that I certainly share that concern, and we watch it, and it's not a me thing, it's a thing between Councilman Kress watches it, Councilman Rowland watches it, AJ watches it, Margie watches it, I watch it, we have an architect who helps watch it. You see these change orders come through. There are a lot of change orders you never see, and that you don't see those because we're swatting them down, we're ruling them out, we're saying those are things that would be nice, maybe we don't need those things. But inevitably, there are things that are going to happen when you renovate a building that you're not going to know about and you can't see. The flooring one is a good example of that. You're not going to know all the layers below a flooring until you get in there and peel all those layers of flooring out to see what you have. In this particular case, could you move forward without doing all of that work? Sure, but you know what you're going to have? 2 or 3 years, you're going to have a flooring that's starting to separate. You're going to start to see some of those divots and things come up from the bottom. And so we don't want to go down a path where we're creating a future headache and a future taxpayer burden for the citizens.
So just to reiterate this, in the original budget and the money for this project, we had a contingency in there for change orders because we knew we were going to find some.
Correct.
Okay. What percentage of change orders are we at right now?
1.4%.
Okay. What is that rate on the overall projects for most projects?
Typically, renovation projects can range anywhere from 5 to 10% for change orders.
Okay. And I will also say this, that I do sit in on the construction meetings, and I walk that building at least once a week. I was definitely concerned, and I'll share that with everybody when we said we were going to have a project, but I was extremely surprised and very happy with what staff is doing as far as how they're watching our pennies. And when I say that, it's our pennies. And they're doing an outstanding job. And I rarely give praise. So, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go through and read these. We will vote on them all as one total, but I will go through and read these via the solicitor. So change order number 9 is in the amount of $15,888 for additional floor preparation on the first level. Change order number 12 is in the amount of $1,612 for additional drywall repair to address moisture damage and tile base removal. Change order number 23 is in the amount of $923 for drywall framing and blocking. Change order number 25 is a benefit to us in the amount of $301. Credit for removal of rating ceiling in the room 44 and replacing the suspended drywall ceiling. Change order number 28 is also a credit in the amount of $1,043 for deletion of 4 data outlets in room number 27. And that's it.
Tim, I think it's important to note too, that we're also getting credits for stuff that we're taking off. Because in my
Correct.
experience with jobs such as this, is they just get taken off, but you don't ever get any discount.
Correct.
So,
Just
they're
also,
not
some
big
of
money,
some
but-
of those discounts too are not necessarily coming by changing the design. Some of those discounts are coming because your Public Works is engaged in things where we've actually gone in and done some of the work, and then the contractor is giving credit to the borough for that. You know, some of those doors that were removed at the very beginning, we got credit back for those. Them using our bathroom facilities in that, as opposed to them getting a porta-john, as long as they could, they were using ours, we got credit for that. So the staff does look for ways where we can go to the plus to help offset some of these.
Okay, so I'll be looking for a motion on the change orders.
So moved.
And a second. Do we get one?
Barb.
Thank you.
Or was Barb, okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Maines. Okay, moving on to 8D, which is the 2025-2027 police union contract. That was in our packet. We'd be looking for a motion on that.
Motion.
Seconded.
Motion from Darlene, second from Brian. Okay. Any discussion? Thank you. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Does anybody have any reports, council members, committees, or other bodies?
The only thing that I want to request, Barb, is that we took out 5 years ago, when I came to council, old and new business, and it was on the agendas, and I would like that replaced. I would like that to be placed back on.
We could talk about
That-
that at governance meeting.
What?
We could talk about it at our committee meeting.
Okay, but please,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
old and new should have never been taken off. It doesn't afford us an opportunity to cover more adequately those things that we may have forgotten the month before, or that has come forward that was not expected, okay, so that we can address it. So I think it's very important to apply that back onto the agenda.
Yep, thank
Okay?
you, Darla.
Thank you.
Okay, any management reports?
Nothing that wasn't included.
Correspondence is in our packet. We will move on to additional public comment. Mr. Holt, if you would please step back up, we appreciate it.
I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm here and other places. I know how to read Congressional Budget Office scorings. I know how to read various kinds of budget documents. I just can't get where all of a sudden there's a $15,888 cost overrun on a project in which a couple of you council members were directly involved in reviewing the building and looking at the bids and the specs. I just don't understand the size of that, and I don't know how you could go ahead and let staff approve that without bringing it to the council for a vote first. $15,888 is a ton of money, and you can make all the excuses and tell all the stories you want.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't add up, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. And I think there needs to be a technical amendment to this so-called public comment resolution to make it clear that people can speak at both the first and second comment session. Because the way it's written now, somebody can be a stickler and say, oh no, it's and or. It's and, not or. It's just one or the other. And so, again, I think this is another exercise where you're trying to muzzle the public. You say you want the public to come here, but in the words of your governance chairman, it doesn't matter. We don't pay attention to them anyway. And that was a statement made in front of witnesses. And so, quite frankly, I think, it's time to shuffle the chairmanships of the committees, and we need a new governance committee chairman, quite frankly. Just some of the stuff that I've witnessed at that meeting, some of the stuff that comes before that committee and disappears, and never to be heard again, and then all of a sudden, it turns up hidden somewheres in like the employee manual. So I think you need to be taking a hard, thoughtful look about how you're overseeing what the staff is doing and how you're conducting business here. And I'm sorry, I just don't know another way to say it, because right now I'm disappointed. This is not governance, and this is not representing the people of the borough. Thank you.
Also, just for your information, Mr. Kress, Tim, I will be going to the West Mannheim, Barb, and I will be attending those, at least one or two meetings. And I will be bringing back anything that I feel that would enable us to hold a better meeting and have more opportunity for correspondence, verbal communication, et cetera. Okay? I just feel it's important to check other areas out and see what they're doing.
Let me know when you go, I'll go with you.
Good.
Okay.
Absolutely. We will go together.
I have no other public comment.
Yeah,
Is there any
thank you.
online?
If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the text feature if you have any comments for council.
Okay. All right. Number 13 is adjournment. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Barb and then Scott.
Attend the meeting.
Thank you.